Hey guys, it's Hollywood Studios here, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing one of Six Flags Great Adventure's marquee attractions, Kingda Ka. For those of you that have visited Six Flags Great Adventure in 2023, some of you may have noticed something different with Kingda Ka this year. I certainly noticed it. I know a lot of people in my group noticed it, and that is that Kingda Ka rode noticeably better this year than it has in years past. And in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that and why this may be the case. Six Flags Great Adventure opened for the season on April 1st, 2023, and the first roller coaster, or at least one of the first roller coasters we chose to ride in the park, was Kingda Ka. Kingda Ka on that day was running ridiculously fast, and I know it might sound ridiculous to say that, but Kingda Ka's launch does vary in speed. It does not launch you at 128 miles per hour every time. In fact, many times it's closer to 120 miles per hour. However, all day on April 1st, Kingda Ka was absolutely launching over the top hat. You can see in clips we filmed from April 1st that Kingda Ka was abnormally fast over that top hat, and this of course translated to a much better ride experience because you got ridiculous ejector airtime over the top of that top hat, and you could even feel the increased speed on the speed hill because I felt sustained floater airtime where sometimes it's hit or miss on that element, but it was really good on opening day. From there, we began to ride Kingda Ka more and more. Currently, I believe it's my most ridden ride of the season so far, Great Adventure, that and Zumanjaro. But back to Kingda Ka, this is because Kingda Ka is just running so damn good. It may not be running as consistently fast as it has been, but it feels noticeably more intense and smooth this year. And I wonder why that's the case. In years past, Kingda Ka has always gotten a bad rap about being rough, about not being as good as Dragster. Personally, I always kind of contested a lot of that, but I did acknowledge that Kingda Ka still was pretty rough, and I had only certain seats that I would be willing to ride Kingda Ka in because through riding it so many times, I was able to figure out where it was smoothest, where it wasn't. But this year, it honestly doesn't even really matter where you ride Kingda Ka. Of course, the front row is still glossy smooth, the smoothest seat on the ride, but really any seat after that still is pretty darn smooth. It's not glass by any means, but it's not painful roughness like it was in years past. So that begs the question, why is this the case? Why is Kingda Ka feeling so much better in 2023 than it has in years past? Every year I have seen on all the trains new blue Intamin wheels, which tells me that maintenance is definitely being put all in on Kingda Ka. They're doing as much as they can to make the ride a better experience. So what could they have done differently this year that they didn't do in years past to make the ride run better? Is it possible they use different parts in terms of the wheel assembly or other aspects of the train? Is there maybe a new material that they're using for the wheels? Maybe a modified version of polyurethane? It's certainly possible that they might have changed the blend or the weighting of certain materials in polyurethane to make the trains different. Although, like I said, the wheels look pretty much identical to how I've seen them in years past, and I'm obviously not on the maintenance team at Great Adventure, nor am I an engineer quite yet, so I can't really address certain things like that too much accuracy, but I can say that Kingda Ka is way smoother this year than in years past. Previously, you would really feel roughness for starters on the launch. The launch on Kingda Ka is elevated much higher than most other coasters' launches are, and it doesn't really have lateral bracing in terms of supports. It's just those straight vertical supports, which leads to a lot of side-to-side swaying on the launch. And of course, I'm not saying the ride is unsafe at all. All roller coasters have to have a degree of sway in order for them to be safe, but Kingda Ka's launch in particular, you can really feel that jittery back and forth motion, and that did lead to a pretty rough ride in the past. However, this year, I feel like it just wasn't as bad as it normally is. Of course, it's still not glass smooth, as I said earlier in the video. However, it felt a lot smoother and easier to enjoy than in years past. Especially up front, I barely felt any lateral swaying back and forth at all. It was really great. And even in the back, it was only a little bit. And in years past, I would bang my ears or my head on the over-the-shoulder restraints because of this lateral swaying, but I didn't feel much of that at all this year, which was really a nice surprise. Then, the highest G-force moment of the ride, which is the pull-up into the top hat. Typically, that is a pretty rough element on the ride. You really feel it hit your head hard, and of course, you do gray out or sometimes even black out, depending on how you are in terms of tolerance to roller coasters. But this year, of course, I still grayed out, but it was not nearly as rough as it typically is. Usually, I feel a really bad headache coming along after I experience Kingda Ka a few times over and over, but that really hasn't been happening for me this year. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that the ride just is not that rough this year. From there, you have the aforementioned top hat, which again, not on every visit is running super fast, but I've noticed more visits than other visits, it is running really fast over that top hat, and I can expect some pretty good ejector airtime going over the top hat, especially in the back row. When you get whipped down that drop, of course there is a trim, but you do feel that weightlessness going all the way down the drop. It's a really, really cool experience, especially in the back row. You don't get it as much in the front, but you get that airtime on the start of the element as opposed to the end of the element, so that kind of makes up for it. Also, in years past, I had felt that the 270-degree spiral going straight down was not the smoothest part of Kingda Ka either. The really fast speed combined with the motion that you're turning really just kind of collaborated into creating a bit of a shaky experience, but this year I didn't really feel that as much. I would always bang my ears or my head in years past on the over-the-shoulder restraints during this element, but this year that really didn't happen. I was able to go through it nice and smooth and not feel any of that. Then the final stretch of the ride, typically there's some really rough patches at the very bottom of that drop, but you kind of just glanced right over them this year. I didn't feel them hitting anywhere near as hard as I was used to them hitting in years past. And again, that contributed to a much smoother and more enjoyable ride experience. The weightless hill, of course, was never rough. It's always really, really smooth because you're not experiencing positive G-forces. You're either experiencing G's less than 1 or less than 0, so you're not really going to feel much roughness there. And then from there, the ride is over. So Kingda Ka, looking at it element by element, is definitely noticeably smoother and more enjoyable this year than it was in years past. And I feel like all the elements on the ride are just hitting a lot better than they have in years past. And as I said, just hearing testimonials of people who I visited the park with, many of them are saying that this is the best Kingda Ka has ever been, that they haven't experienced Kingda Ka this good ever since opening year. So I think that's definitely a good sign. And I just want to send a huge shout out to Great Adventure. Whatever your maintenance department did over the off season to Kingda Ka, it worked really, really well, and I love Kingda Ka this year. It is running so much better than it has in years past, and that's not even to say that it was running bad in years past. It's always been a great ride, but this year I feel myself putting Kingda Ka much closer to the top spot in terms of roller coasters at Great Adventure than I would in years past. This ride, every visit I go, constantly battles with Jersey Devil for the number 2 spot in the park for me, which I never thought I'd be saying after riding Jersey Devil so many times and seeing how good of a ride it is. Kingda Ka this year really is that much of an elevated experience. That combined with the amazing operations on part of the operations team at Kingda Ka, they're constantly pushing trains through. I've never seen the operations so fast on that ride. And all of this combines into me thinking that 2023 is probably the best year we've seen for Kingda Ka in terms of the way it's operating. If you guys have noticed the change in Kingda Ka for 2023 and feel that it's running better, let me know down in the comments section. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to Hollywood Studios, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.